Hello everyone, welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. Today we're going to be taking a look at an interview with Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga. This interview really caught my attention, guys, because it's not often that you see boxers interviewed at the same time in the same room. Obviously you get it with the face-offs, but they can sometimes feel a little bit overproduced and a little bit contrived. But just to have a free speaking interview like this that isn't a press conference or a face-off was really curious to me. Wait until the end, because there was a part of this interview that I thought was a very cutting question. And actually, something I'm starting to notice is there's more interviews coming out now with outlets that are not considered to be sort of boxing journalists. They're not so mainstream. I'm not even sure what this channel is, but it's called $1 Million Worth of Game. It's got like 1 million subscribers, so obviously I'm an idiot and I've just been under a rock. But anyway, some of these guys, like they're quite brave and they'll ask what they want to ask. And they actually asked Canelo a question towards the end of this interview that I really was interested to hear the answer to. But this is a fight that I'm looking forward to. I am going to be doing a game film analysis. I've already started preparing it. I am currently doing my research, watching both guys, trying to figure out how I think the fight's going to play out. And so far, it's not looking too good for Edgar Berlanga. Not to give you any spoilers, I'm sure most of you that have watched them will already be aware of that. But that will be coming out in the near future, potentially this week, hopefully. But let's get into this interview and see what both men had to say.
What's up, baby? Do 1.5 million pay-per-views, baby.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, 1.5. A lot of money. 1.5. That's nice.
That is a very funny opening. And do you know what? Since Canelo started speaking English and opening up a bit more, I'm really enjoying his character. I think he's a very funny guy. He's got a lot of edge about him, and you can see he's a fierce competitor. But he's definitely been feeling himself more lately, which I'm quite enjoying, actually. I think it's quite entertaining. Anyway, let's crack on with the interview.
Yeah, man.
Right.
We got Canelo. We got Edgar. Listen, man. Edgar, I'm going to go with you first now. I call you the stoppage. You be stopped. You know, how you feel going into this fight? 22 wins, 17 knockouts. People don't last that long in the ring with you. How do you feel going into this fight? What is your plans? You know, what do you plan to do?
He's a legend, bro. You know what I'm saying? And this is a time for me to, make greatness happen. You know what I'm saying? September 14th. He's seen a lot already. You know what I'm saying? And I said this before. He fought Triple G. He fought Floyd. He fought Bivol. He fought bigger guys. But what I know is that there's nothing physical about this fight. You know what I'm saying? It's all this. It's mental. It's the intelligence. And that's what's going to make the difference. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting reaction from Berlanga there. The interviewer sort of drawing attention to Berlanga's knockout record, which, that was how he initially built the hype in the game. He was getting a lot of knockouts, a lot of early knockouts and fights. More recently, he's been struggling to get those stoppages to quite the same degree as the level of opposition stepped up. To be honest, he hasn't fought anybody that outstanding so far. So even doing my analysis of him, it's been quite difficult to read and sort of assess what level he's at because he's not fighting top level guys. And look, clearly he can punch to an extent. He's obviously got a decent amount of power. How much power he actually has is quite hard to tell. He's definitely got the ability to come forward and throw punches, and he's got good power, but how hard he actually punches is up for question. But interestingly, his reaction there was to immediately sort of, firstly, he was very respectful of Canelo. He was saying he's a legend. He's fought all these big names. Instantly, he's focused on the fact that this is going to be a mental battle and how he performs mentally in the ring, which is quite interesting to me. He knows that power is not enough to beat Canelo. He knows he's got to have a good game plan. He knows he's going to have to implement it on the night. So I'd say that's a positive sign for Berlanga. He definitely can't punch his way through Canelo. The man has got one of the best chins in boxing. Unbelievable defense. Super economical with his punches. So yeah, he knows that it's going to be a psychological battle in there. And I guess good to see that he's aware of that.
I see you approaching this fight, which I see him being a legend. There's a lot of respect. Where did that come from?
With him, he's a legend, bro. Like I said, bro, I've been manifesting this for a long time, man. People out there know I used to talk about it. Like, yo, that guy right there, we're gonna fight one day.
That's very interesting. And this is something that, again, people that follow me know that I watch Hatman from time to time, and he's talked about this long-term obsession that Berlanga has with Canelo, and the fact that he's been kind of obsessed with him, and he's even using words like manifest it. I've manifested this fight, which makes you think he's been on his mind a fair amount. So this is a fight that he obviously wanted. I mean, who wouldn't want it financially? But in terms of, it being a competitive showcase, he obviously thinks there's something he can do here. And that belief will maybe carry him further than he should or could go otherwise. So that is probably the most intriguing thing about this matchup is Berlanga's interest in Canelo, his long-term interest in Canelo. and how that feeds into what he's able to do in the ring in terms of performance. Look, there's going to be limitations on him that, you know, it's never going to be a case of like mentally you can elevate yourself so far that you can overcome an insurmountable challenge, but will it give him, you know, because he's not fought at the top level yet, we don't know what his ceiling is. That mixed with the fact that he's obsessed with this guy to an extent, to a degree, whatever that degree is, you know, what level will that take him to of performance on the night? And that is the intangible, and that is the small little bit of interest. That's the small detail that kind of gives me a bit more intrigue in this fight, because at the minute, based on the records, based on the experience levels, based on just the eye test, general eye test, you know, it's not a super intriguing fight, to be honest.
Benavidez, they was begging for Terrence Crawford. What made you pick this young lion right here?
I think I picked him because he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, a strong fighter, young fighter. And it's Mexico versus Puerto Rico, always history for boxing. And I think it's a good fight for the people.
Canelo saying it's a good fight. To be honest with you, you look at the run that Berlanga's had, I think it might be one of the worst runs I've ever seen in boxing in terms of opposition faced to get a fight as big as a Canelo fight. It's just not good enough. And he's trying to sell it based on where he's from, Mexico versus Puerto Rico. It's like, yeah, this is about business. This is only about business for Canelo, this fight, in my opinion. He's not picked Berlanga because it's a particularly like huge sporting challenge. To his perception, that might be proved to be different. Like Berlanga might have a lot more than we all think, but based on what we can see at the minute, you know, this is a bit of a gimme fight for Canelo. And he's basically just said it there. He said, look, I picked him because I think he's a good young fighter and because he's from Puerto Rico. What has nationality got to do with it, you know, other than the ticket sales that can be done and the level of intrigue for the public?
Berlanga, Edgar, I'm being honest. Not too many people in the media is giving you a shot.
Of course, I know.
They saying it's too early. We did an interview with Gervonta Davis and we did an interview with Frank Martin, and Tank sat here and told Frank, it's too early. You should have waited. You took this fight too early. To the people that saying it's too early, Edgar, you shouldn't have took this fight. What do you got to say to that?
I've been boxing since I was 7, bro. I was born into, and I seen that interview when Tank said that Frank Martin is a fighter that he just started boxing a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the sport since 7 years old. You feel me? So it's different. You know, right now is the time. You feel me? We're not stepping back. We got the opportunity and we taking it. You feel me? And we going up against a legend. So that's the most important thing. And it's crazy. I really dreamed about all of this shit, man. Like everything that's going on right now, I dreamed of it. You know what I'm saying? And
he keeps Berlanga, interestingly, keeps falling back on this manifestation, this I've dreamt of it thing. And you can even see Canelo sort of tips his head back and adjusts his sunglasses like he's kind of not particularly interested in what Berlanga has to say. But you know, he was asked quite a poignant question there, which is like, no one thinks you're going to win. Like, how does that affect you? Why do you think you're going to win? What do you say to that? And he's just sort of like, he keeps falling back on this manifestation, this sort of inner belief that he seems to have. But obviously he can't back it up with any facts. He can't back it up with any particular win that he has. I don't even know if he can, in his own mind, back it up in terms of his ability. I don't know, but maybe he can.
stepping in front of him, man, is just, you know, another day.
But you know, this is the biggest.
Of course.
This is the biggest in the game.
Of course.
This is 33% of Mexico is watching when he fight.
Of course.
All eyes gonna be on you that night. He's used to the big stage. He's been doing the big stage for years. I'm talking about he's used to coming out in front of 40, 50.
I don't know why this guy's ramming the point home. Like, obviously Berlanga knows all of this, and it's like, what do you want him to say, mate? Like, we know he's the underdog. Like, are you trying to, like, do you want him to admit that he can't win? Like, well, I don't understand the extended line of questioning around Berlanga's chances and why do you think you can do this? Because, I don't know. Like, what do you want him to say?
50, 60,000.
Of course. But everybody got to get their feet wet, right? He got his feet wet. The only way to do it is I got to be in that position. You know what I'm
saying? Yeah, fair enough. Like what we've just been saying. He's got his chance. He's going to try, and we'll see what he can do, and we'll find out. And this is his first big chance. It just is a massive jump from the opposition he's forced. Porrick McCrory, was his last fight, and before that it was Jason Quigley. So yeah, you know, it's one of them. It's like, it's just a massive, massive jump in quality. So
65 fights, 2 draws, 2 losses, 39 knockouts. All the money, all the cars, everything you want, beautiful family. What motivates you to keep going? Why do you keep going?
I love boxing. I love what I do. I still enjoy my training camps. I enjoy boxing. I love this. I enjoy a lot this. So, and I want to continue to make history because I want to put my name in a big stage, in a big in a big position for my history. So, and I still enjoy it. I love what I do.
I believe that Canelo still loves the game. I mean, you can't be in it for this long if you don't love it. But he's also making very, very good money. And, you know, he's talking about making history and all that sort of thing. Look, for me, this is not a history fight. The last few fights haven't been history fights. Jaime Munguia, this fight, John Ryder, you know, it's a run of opponents that are just kind of a level that he can win at comfortably and extends his career. And, you know, I don't have a problem with Canelo fight. I just want to make this really clear. I don't have a problem with Canelo fighting whoever he wants to fight. My problem with Canelo fighting whoever he wants to fight is that he's a world champion. And it just undermines the systems that are in place in boxing, or not in place in boxing. You know, they are there in name only. The mandatory system is in name only, especially with the WBC. They will not make you fight your mandatory challenges. If you are bringing enough money to the table, you can pick and choose who you want to fight. So it's very difficult for me to sit and believe Canelo when he says it's all about history, it's all about legacy. It's not. It's about the bank balance and extending that for as long as possible. That's what his actions are showing me. You know, they say, if you can't trust someone, you know, they say, don't listen to what someone says, listen to what they do. If your actions are a language, what are they saying? And you know, with Canelo, his actions are telling me that he doesn't want the biggest challenges. He wants to extend his career for as long as possible and make as much money as he can. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just that he has a belt. And so the rightful man is not world champion, or we don't know if the rightful man's world champion because we don't see him fighting the best guys at 168 anymore. And the two best guys have just gone up a weight because they weren't going to get that shot. So, you know, it is what it is.
To this date, what was your hardest fight?
I have a lot of them, but I think my difficult fight was with Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd Mayweather?
Hardest fights with Golovkin, maybe.
Golovkin?
Yeah.
Who was the hardest puncher you faced?
Look, everybody can say Golovkin, but I never feel that bad like Kirkland. Kirkland, he hit my...
Oh, Kirkland. Okay, interesting. So he's been asked their hardest fight, and he said sort of Floyd was the trickiest, Golovkin was maybe the hardest. And then he said Kirkland's punches, rather than Golovkin's, were the most powerful. Interesting. Interesting. To my mind, off the top of my head, I think Lara was probably a very challenging fight for Canelo that a lot of people, you know, thought he didn't win. And obviously, he's not mentioned Dimitri Bivol there, which is very, very interesting because, you know, at the peak of his powers, that was probably the worst beating that he took. So very interesting. I understand why he said Floyd. He barely landed a glove on Floyd all night. That was an incredible performance. If you go and watch the highlights of that fight, it's a mesmerizing boxing performance from Floyd Mayweather that night. Incredible. And the Golovkin fight, I mean, obviously I thought he lost the first Golovkin fight. I think the second one, I thought Golovkin won by a round. The third one, he won clearly. And then Kirkland was a big puncher, but Canelo iced him. That was an amazing knockout. But yeah, I didn't mention Lara, and yeah, also that you know, if the Bivol one's really interesting. It's almost being treated like it never happened in some ways with Canelo, you feel. But yeah, and it was since that loss that and I think Turkey mentioned this in his tweet, it was since that Bivol loss that Canelo sort of perceptibly started taking less risks and started taking less difficult challenges. So yeah, interesting. I'd love to know what he thinks about that fight. I'd love to know how he dealt with that psychologically, because you'd argue that he's maybe still rebuilding if that is what he's doing. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what he thinks about that fight.
New York. How do you feel knowing you got PR like on your back, man? You got in New York City, MP. That's like, how do you feel? Like, this is like, whoa, this is a lot of pressure.
No. It feels good.
It feels like they didn't speak to Berlanga for a lot of this interview. They were sort of more focused on Canelo, but they brought back to Berlanga here to ask about being from.
Man, you know, one thing about me, right, that I got Puerto Rico, but I also got the hip hop culture.
Yes, you
know
do.
what I'm saying? I got both, and that's why I got the best of both worlds. You feel me? So I think it's a good feeling, man. You know what I'm saying? I like to have challenges like that, bro. You know, like I like having that. Having an island behind me, having the haters talking shit, you know what I'm saying? Having New York behind me, like, that's something I dreamed of, you feel me? And I got it, you know what I'm saying? You can't step back now, like, I got it, it's here, that's it, you feel me? Now, you just gotta make it happen.
That's really interesting, hearing him talk about it. He seems to be a very psychologically motivated guy, Berlanga. Like, you see a lot of boxers that are very simple, you know, they get in the ring, they do their job, they leave the ring, and that's it. Berlanga, he's talking a lot about challenges and manifestation, and he's talking here about, you know, the challenge of having haters and having supporters and how that fuels him. And yeah, this is a guy who's clearly, he clearly has like psychological motivations to get him to the right place for a fight. So you know, it's just interesting to assess. And I wonder how that will affect him on fight night. I wonder if Canelo can get in his head, or if Canelo's bothered to get in his head. You know, most people think the levels difference is going to be too much, but, you know, maybe if Canelo does sleep on this guy, maybe Berlanga can get in Canelo's head a little bit. I don't know. It's interesting. I doubt it. I think Canelo's far too seasoned and far too experienced. He's seen everything in the ring and out the ring. But Berlanga's mental preparation will clearly be absolutely crucial for him in how he goes about approaching this fight and giving himself a chance of winning.
People think it's payday, man. Like, the money's cool, you know what I'm saying? But for me, I'm big on legacy, man. You know what I'm saying? And my biggest fear is losing. That's the difference, you feel me? And that's why I get tight. I hear these people saying payday. I'm not a crab, bro. I'm not a nigga that chase money, you know what I'm saying?
But this what we in it for.
He gave me the opportunity, you feel me? He gave me and I worked hard for this. And he gave me the opportunity, you know what I'm saying? But it's a payday, don't get me wrong. The money's there. The bag is there September 14th. Like, that's there already, you feel me? Now it's about stamping my name in boxing.
That's a really interesting response, actually, to hear him say, nah, like, yeah, money, fine, but like, this is about legacy for me. This is about, and it's a different tone from the one you're receiving from Canelo. This is a hungry young guy who wants to win badly. He wants to write his own path in boxing, his own legacy in boxing. And you got Canelo, who's kind of been there and done that. He's enjoying himself, and it is about money for Canelo. Like, I would say almost 100% about money for Canelo based on this choice of opposition. So, yeah, that might be a small determining factor in this fight. The extra hunger that Berlanga has. He seems hungry. You can feel it in him, you know, and the fact he is driven to succeed and driven to have a legacy. You know, I'm speculating here. I'm looking for things, guys, because honestly, like, I think the level that these guys are at technically, experience-wise, they're just a complete world apart. They're in completely different stratospheres. Canelo has already had a Hall of Fame career. Berlanga's not even fought a world-class fighter, not once. So that's my opinion. So I'm trying to find things that might level the playing field, that might give Berlanga some kind of chance, things that are worth considering. But, you know, these are just small percentages that might help him a little bit. Okay, guys, this is where it gets really interesting. So keep watching, because this part of the interview really fascinated me.
50, 100.
Now, Canelo, do you think boxing would be much better or different if fighters had to fight people in order instead of picking who they wanted to fight? Do you think it'd be better?
Look, at some point, all the fighters did. De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, Julio Cesar Chavez, Mike Tyson. Everybody did this. When you're it's their levels and they're stars and superstars. Okay, and they made the championship. Not the championship made them. So it's way different, you know. Like I come and I do my career and I fight with Coro and with the Klaus, and I fight with Mayweather with the Klaus, and I fight with everybody to build my Canelo Alvarez. I am right now. I can do whatever I want.
Right.
And I don't wanna. And it's not gonna come the IVF. Hey, you need to fight with this because who's school?
Right. Right.
I never hear about him. Just when they say, "Hey, this is your mandatory."
Yeah.
I never hear about him.
Right.
I don't wanna do whatever they want.
Right. Because you worked hard enough to do what you want. Yes.
In this position, I can do whatever I want.
Because you put the time, you put the work.
Because I deserve it.
Absolutely.
Because all I did.
Absolutely.
Like they say, hey, you don't want to fight Golovkin, I fight him. Hey, Lara, fight Lara. Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Trout, Mayweather, Coro, Bivol, everything. I did everything.
And now Berlanga.
So that's very interesting. That to pick apart is interesting. So he sort of says to Canelo, wouldn't it be better if there was rankings and everybody fought according to the rankings? And he's like, well, you know, every legend, every superstar of the sport has done that at some point to fight to where they're in control of their own careers and then they do what they want. And so he made the example of Canelo, of Cotto, how he had to fight with these clauses. And I assume he's talking about like rehydration clauses and things like that, things that hinder you in your performance on the night. Probably talking about taking less money as well, almost certainly. And he's basically saying, I built myself to the place where I control what happens in these fights, how much money I make. And he talks, and then he lists off, you know, various opponents that he's faced, champions that he did fight, you know, Lara, Golovkin, etc., etc. But the thing is, you know, yes, there were moments where he fought guys that he needed to fight to get belts and things like that. But the Golovkin fights, for sure, like, they were taken way when Golovkin was on the slide, without question for me, you know. And luckily for us in that first couple, Golovkin was still a force to be reckoned with. The third one, he was completely finished. It's one of the, you know, it's what we've been talking about, guys. You know, Canelo has so much power now and so much money that the governing bodies, except for the IBF, who he's just referenced, who stripped him to make him fight his mandatory. He was called Skull, I believe. I saw him. I didn't know who he was, but he's picked an example of like the worst mandatory that could have been enforced on him to show an example of why the mandatory system doesn't work. He's like, who's Skull? Why should I fight Skull? I don't necessarily disagree with that, because like how have the IBF managed to figure out that guy is the #1 ranked person? I have no idea. I don't know who he is. Look, maybe I'm talking out my arse here. Maybe I need to go and have a look, and maybe that guy actually deserves to be #1. I'm not actually sure how it works with the IBF, but they do often do that. They enforce some like random mandatory. I remember Kell Brook had to fight a couple really random mandatories back in the day. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting debate to have. Canelo's spoken very freely there, and he's basically just been like, look, I decide who I fight, when I fight them, how I fight them. And I deserve that because of the position I've built myself into. And, you know, that's always going to be a challenge for me to accept because I'm a fan of the sport. I'm not a Canelo Alvarez fan. I'm not a fan of any particular fighter. I just want the best to fight the best, and I want people that deserve a shot to get a shot. And that is not going to happen in a system where the fighters control who they fight because they've garnered so much power. And look, you might say, oh, look, it's fair because Canelo's served his time. He's now in a position all these stars have been in, all these legends of the sport have been in. He's worked his way to that position. You know, I get it. You know, when a system is like that and you feel like you did your time, so now they've got to do their time, you know, you can understand why someone feels like they deserve to be where they are because that's the system they grew up in, that they came up in, so now they deserve that position. But the reality is, if the sport's ever going to improve, if we're ever going to see the best fighting the best more, if we're ever going to see people that deserve a shot getting a shot, no more ducking, no more avoiding, then, you know, the sport has to change. And that means that somebody who's had to deal with that crap is going to have to basically give up their right to then be the person that dishes it out. And that's how I see the sport moving forward as a whole. This interview was really good. I loved the fact that they put them together in the room. I thought that was really effective. Although it didn't quite produce the fireworks and, you know, animosity I was expecting it to. Very respectful between the two men. And certainly from Berlanga, you know, he's definitely not taking any sort of approach of being disrespectful to Canelo. He's, you know, admitting he's a legend. He has no problem saying that. But, you know, some interesting things to observe in the way he speaks. Very psychologically motivated. Somebody who needs to get his mind right for the night. I'm sure he will. And Canelo seems chilled out and he's just living his best life, doing his business and making his bag. And that is how I view Canelo right now in the sport. I still hope that he takes on some bigger challenges, but he's had a great career. He could retire right now. And again, I want to reiterate, guys, my only issue with Canelo is that as long as he's a belt holder, I want to see him fighting better champions than this. And, you know, I keep talking about Benavidez. Everybody keeps coming at me saying, oh, Benavidez moved up. Benavidez didn't want it. He didn't enforce his mandatory. Guys, the WBC were never, ever going to enforce that fight. They just weren't, okay? Because Canelo doesn't want it. Because Canelo decides. He's just told you, I'm the one that decides. If he's the one that decides, what makes you think that Benavidez is the problem? It makes no sense. So anyway, enough said about that, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please throw the video a like. I will be doing a full game film analysis of Canelo versus Berlanga. I hope to get it out to you this week. And thank you for watching. On to the next one.